Parcel Fabric meetup. Today we have Mike Snook from Missoula County, Montana. Mike is the GIS coordinator for Missoula County, and he's been implementing the Parcel Fabric in ArcMap, and we've seen some interesting customization that he's done in the past. So we're very curious to see what you have for us today, Mike.
All right, thanks, Amir. Hi, everybody. Thanks to Amir and Esri Crew for inviting me along. I'm going to show a little bit about how we integrate our Department of Revenue Assessors database into our daily Parcel Fabric updating workflows. So as Amir said, I'm the manager for Missoula County GIS department, and one of our main duties is parcel maintenance, as a lot of you probably do the same thing. We manage about 50,000 parcels in the county, and that's just tax parcels, not to mention all the other things that go along with it, like lots and surveys and all that. So I'm gonna just get going on some slides here, and then I'll do a quick demo. So we've been creating and maintaining custom tools to help our editing processes along the way for quite a while now. It started out in ArcMap. We started with the Parcel Fabric in ArcMap and migrated about 4 years ago, I think, to the Pro Fabric. So we had to kind of migrate all those tools along with it to the Pro SDK. It gives us a really streamlined way to keep pace with keeping up with the parcel database, because it's an ever expanding demand of data throughout the county. And that's not just internal county, but it's, the public uses our data on a daily basis as well. So keeping the parcel data as accurate as we can is kind of a top priority, and using these custom tools helps us do that. It's integral to many central business county processes. Permitting is probably the most important one, because everything sort of starts with permitting, building, electrical permits, mechanical permits, well and septic permits, address permits. It all starts with a piece of land. Not to mention zoning and planning is also heavily reliant on accurate parcels and ownership data, so that's also critical. So like I said, using the tools allows us a very efficient way to edit the data. We can wire up the tools to sort of mimic what the attribute assistant does too, and we use that in conjunction with some of our tools, but it allows us to really maintain the integrity of the data that's going in. So I just have on there, just say no to editing attribute tables. It's much easier to create a tool that does multiple steps for you all at once. And so also, in addition to the ArcGIS Pro SDK, we also use Python to do a lot of our back-end sort of maintenance tasks, and I'll show you those in a little bit. The connection between the parcels and Department of Revenue data. So currently, the Montana Department of Revenue, the State Department of Revenue, creates and maintains the unique parcel identifiers for each parcel in the state. They're known as geocodes. It's the key component to linking our parcel data with the DOR Orion database, and that's the assessor's database, is known as Orion. And so basically the main link back to the parcels is known as the geocode. Geocodes are basically a geographic locator for each parcel in the whole state, and it's based on the Public Land Survey System, the PLSS. Just by looking at a geocode, you can tell what county it's in, what township range it's in, what section it's in, what quarter section it's in, and it kind of goes all the way down to the lot level, and then to the parcel level. So once a new survey plat, a certificate of survey or a subdivision or an amended subdivision plat is filed, new geocodes are created for each newly taxed parcel by the Department of Revenue, and an entry is entered into the Orion database. It's very important that we maintain this in our parcel data as soon as those parcels are created and the plat is filed, and it's critical that the geocode is the correct geocode for each parcel. because like I said, you know, the permitting data and the zoning data is all dependent on having the correct linkage to those parcels. So it's critical. We are lucky enough to have access to this data, and so we download and attach a newly exported SQL Server database that is provided by the state. We do that on a nightly basis, and we've automated that process, so we don't even have to touch it. We just know that it's updated. So the great benefit there is we have a really good relationship with our Department of Revenue people, the assessors and the mapping folks over there. And so if we do see mistakes in the database, we can shoot off an email to them, and it generally will be fixed the next day. And same goes for them. If they see an issue in our parcels, they can notify us and we'll have it fixed. So everything stays in sync. How does it work? The Department of Revenue Orion database. We have developed a custom API that interfaces with the database, with the SQL Server database. And this is using C# and Entity Framework to create the API. And this particular API is the central point for all of our systems. So any desktop apps or web-based apps use the same database, the same API, and they get the same current parcel data information. So there's no worries about duplicate data or something's out of date. It's always the same. It's imperative that the data is updated and current. Like I said, again, to assist the daily county workflows, the data has to be accurate. And with this singular approach, you know, the central database, we can kind of monitor that and make sure everything is in sync. We use custom ArcGIS Pro add-ins to manage and maintain the parcel attributes to assure accuracy. And so we can kind of compare what the Orion database has to what we have and make sure everything is the same. The second part of this, how does it work? Survey data. So in addition to the Orion database, which, you know, keeps track of all things parcel related, you know, the legal description of that parcel, the owners of that parcel, how big the parcel is, you know, you name it, it's all the assessor's data. We use another API that is connected to the Missoula County Public Works survey database. And so the surveyors collect and maintain all of the filed plat information. So the name of the plat, the date it was filed, the surveyor of the plat, how many lots are in the plat, and that all goes into a separate database that we also have access to. And so the surveyor's department also assists in the review process for any plat submissions before they're officially filed. And part of that review is to create CAD drawings, you know, go traverse out the actual plat itself for the preliminary survey, and that's for quality control and assessment on the survey. We have immediate access to that CAD data. So once the plat is filed, we can reference that data and pull it into our project. And we're a little bit spoiled, I guess, because, you know, the drawing is already done. So all we have to do is integrate it. And so we have a semi-automatic integration of the CAD drawing data into the parcel fabric. So it goes fairly quickly and fairly smoothly. So with that, I'm going to show a quick demo on how we integrate the survey data and the Department of Revenue data into the parcel fabric. So first thing that we would see is generally automated email. And this happens every night. Yeah.
Mike, we're seeing a black screen.
Okay. How's that?
Yeah. Now we see the web browser.
Okay. So the first thing that we would see, let me start my email up, sorry. Is an email, it's an automated email. So we have a process that runs every night that can tell if a new scan, if a new subdivision or certificate of survey has been scanned. And it sends us a notification, and this is the notification. And this is coming from the surveyor's database. And so we click this, and this is the new plat that we have to enter. So we know that this plat needs to be entered. And we'll go to our land research page, which is this page. It's a website that we have set up, and it also is connected to the surveyor's survey database. And so in this case, we'd want to look for the most recent ones. Now, this is a demo, and this one's a little bit older. So generally, it should be on the top here, but this one is a little bit older, so I'm going to search for the last 10. And here it is. It's South Missoula, Block 93, Lot 23 and 24. That's this new plat here. And this gives me all the information here, what the book and page it is, the surveyor's office number, a tracking number, what township range and section it's in, quarter section, what type of survey it is. It's a boundary line relocation, how many lots it has, and the acreage, and as well as the owner. Normally, if this was a new plat, this is a map link that you can click and it'll zoom to it, but normally this wouldn't be there because, you know, we shouldn't have had it mapped yet, but in this case we do. So the next step is I'm going to kind of investigate the plat, and, you know, I'm sure you've all done this. This is how kind of integrating parcels into the fabric goes. I'm going to investigate it and figure out where it is, and usually the easiest is a street intersection. So in this case, it's Knowles and Rollins Street in Missoula. Then I'm going to fire up our editing project. So here is Missoula County. There's our outline. Excited Missoula County. Then I will turn on my tax parcels. And then I have a little utility here to search for road intersections. So I'm just going to type in Rollins Street. That's the one I want. And then Knowles just so happens to be the first one on the list, so it zooms right to it. And that way we can easily find where we're, you know, where we want to edit. And I got to make sure this is the right one, so I'm going to turn on my lot lines. I'm going to zoom in. It's lot 23, 24. Go back to the plat. It is, we're amending lots 23 and 24. So now, since we have access to the CAD data and the surveyor's database, what I can do is to automate this process a little, make it a little bit easier. I can take the survey, the SST, it's the survey tracking number, and I can copy that. And this is the add-in that we've kind of been maintaining over the years. It's grown and changed a little bit, and I'll get to this dialogue in a second. But we have a utility here where we can drop in the tracking number and hit enter. And this is doing two things now. It is going out to search the surveyor's CAD directory, which we have linked to directly, and it's searching for this tracking number as a DWG file. So it says success, so that's good. And it pulls the CAD into our view automatically. That's what we're after. But not only that, it also, if you notice here, it starts up a new record and it sets it as the active record. And so what this did is it pulled all of that data from here, the same database, and it populated all the relevance attribute columns. And so it sets it, we don't have to enter all that stuff, and it sets the record as current. So basically we're ready to go start editing.
Very cool.
Thanks. So, and bear with me, I'm just going to do a standard, you know, parcel fabric join here. Since it's CAD data, I have to georeference it. And I'm going to move it to the display. And this one is a little wonky because it shoots it out a little bit farther than I am used to. So then I have to move it. Normally it should pop in right there, but this one doesn't for some reason. Okay, and I'm going to get it as close as I can. And make sure I have tax lines on. I do. I'm going to select all these lines. Sometimes the CAD data will show selection, sometimes not. I'm not sure why, but I do have 8 selected lines. And since my record is already set, I don't have to worry about finding a record or setting it. And then I'm going to copy the lines to tax parcels. And there they are. So it's generating the seeds. I know I'm ready to go. I am done with the CAD because all I needed was the CAD line work. So I can get rid of this. I'm going to stop my georeferencing session. Then I'm going to get rid of the CAD data. And now I'm left alone with just the relevant tax lines that I need. And part of our process is to update the COGO attributes for this. So I'll do that real quick. And then another part is just kind of verify that the meets and bounds are correct. So I got south 430420 and it's 44.99. And I'll do a quick check on here. South 430420 and it's 44.9. So I'm happy with it. Normally I would check, you know, do a quick spot check of all of them, but I'm fairly sure that survey data is accurate. Okay, next step, I'm gonna build the parcels. I'm gonna make tax parcels, I'm gonna show it, and then I'm gonna align them. And I'm gonna keep the two, I'm gonna keep the original tax parcel there, which is behind all this, and the 2 lot lines for now. And this one's super basic, so it should just do it automatically. It should find them all. And then I'm gonna hit align. So standard parcel fabric stuff, right? Okay, done with that. Close those guys. The next step is I'm gonna set everything to historic that I don't want anymore. So I'm gonna select these 2 lots in here. Set them as historic and get rid of those. And I'm going to also set the tax parcel that's underneath here, and it's this one, and it already has a geocode, and you can see it's the whole lot. So that's the one I want to get rid of. Set that as historic. There. Now I'm just set with my, you know, basic building blocks. I'm gonna save these. Now I have to create lot line or blocks and lots. I'm going to duplicate those parcels to conveyance division. It's going to set it as the default, which I don't have anything. It's just uncategorized, so it's pink. But then I also need to create my conveyance division. I forgot to mention too, our parcel fabric is based on the local government information model, so that's kind of what you see here. Then I'm going to merge those into simultaneous conveyance. And I'm not going to name it or anything. I'm just going to hit merge to get my simultaneous conveyance. Clear. Okay. So now we have all that done. I'm going to save all this. So instead of editing, you know, all the attributes, you know, in the attribute tables, I'm going to pull open our parcel tools, and I'm going to load all the possible target feature classes that I can edit in the fabric, and I'll list them here. So I want to edit my simultaneous conveyance first, which is the survey. I click on my edit parcel button. Oh, what happened? I don't know if it created a simultaneous conveyance.
Take your time, Mike.
Okay. Keep original. Oh, I think. There it goes. I'm not sure why it didn't do that. I think maybe I have a query to kick out null values. Okay, so there's my simultaneous conveyance. I'm going to go back to my form. Now I have simultaneous conveyance selected there. I'm going to click on my parcel tools and my edit tools, and I'm going to click on that. It shows in the name, South Missoula. I'm going to give it the kind of more known name, so it's block 93, lot 23, and lot 24. The plat type is a subdivision, and I can choose from all of these different, and it'll update the symbology accordingly. But this is a subdivision, and so I just want to update it. And then it updates the name, shows it there. And I can turn that off. And then I'm going to do the same with the conveyance divisions. I'll select this one, and I got to reference my plat again. So in this case, that looks like it's 23A. And then in these tools, I can just type 23A. And I give it a lot type, and we try to follow exactly what the plat has. So in this case, it's a lot. There could be a parcel or a tract. There's a couple different notations. So in this case, it's a lot. Hit update, 23A. As you can see, it's lot type lot. Those are all the same. And then I'm going to do the same here for 24A. And call it a lot. There we go. Okay, so those are, the basic fabric building blocks. I'm going to minimize all this. I'm going to turn my tax parcels on. Now, here's where the Department of Revenue integration comes in. So, like I said, once a plat is filed, they'll generate legal descriptions and geocodes to go with those legal descriptions, and they'll ship those to us on a weekly basis for the new ones. The reason for that is all current year splits don't go into the Orion database until the following year. So we have to do this in sort of a manual process. But Department of Revenue sent me a geocode, and it's for lot 23A, which is this one. And again, I'm just going to select, change it to fabric tax parcels because that's what I want to edit. Select it, and I'm just going to paste the geocode here. It's this big long number. Now, the geocode is there, and I don't know what it is. So to get it, I'm going to click the tax ID box, and what that's going to do is send a query out to our Orion database API, and it's going to pull back what the tax ID is in Orion, what the levy district is for this parcel. It's going to pull back the owners, and it's going to pull back the legal description for this particular piece of ground. And this is all coming from the Orion database. On top of that, it tells you what subdivision it's in, and this is the original subdivision at South Missoula. And so this allows me to verify that I have the correct geocode. I can see it because it's lot 23A. I go to my plat, it's lot 23A. I can kind of investigate the acreages. So Department of Revenue has 0.072 acres, and the shape of this is what the GIS acres here is. It's 0.072. So I'm pretty confident that that's the correct parcel. Then I can set the owner code. In this case, it's just a private parcel. I'll get to those a little later. Then I can click update. And as you can see, the label for this has changed. Now the geocode is inside the parcel, or it's saved with the parcel, as well as the tax ID, the levy district, and the ownership code. We don't save any of the other data because it's in the Orion database, and we can link to that just as easy as we can, or much easier, I think, than maintaining all of that information in here. So really, we just maintain the geocode link for each parcel so we can get back to the Orion database. So to finish this off, I'm going to do the second one, which is lot 24A. I have the geocode here. Same process. Legal description comes back. It's lot 24A. I'm happy with that. Acreage is slightly different. That could be some kind of a strange drawing thing I have. Maybe I squished it in there, but I'm happy that it's 24A here. Click update, and we're good. So the whole process kind of used the survey data to get the record information that we need. From that record information, I was able to create the lots, and then from that, I was able to create the tax parcels and use Department of Revenue data to verify that I have the correct information. And so, in under 10 minutes, we got the entire survey entered, and we're sure it's accurate. So now this will be synced out on a nightly basis to all of the, all of our relevant web apps and any other data sources that people need to get it from.
Very nice, Mike. I like the way how the symbology changed while you were updating to tell you what still needed to be updated. There's a few questions that came in. Would you like to answer them now?
Sure.
Charlene is asking, how often does the DOR data get updated from the county assessor?
If there's a discrepancy that we see and we notify the Department of Revenue, sometimes it's as soon as the next day or the next update cycle of the Orion database, which could be a day or two. Generally, they'll get the fixes in really quickly, which is great. With new splits, like I said, for this entire year of 2023, anything that was split in this year will not be available in the Orion database until next year. So we have to wait, but we've sort of come up with a solution for that by mimicking kind of our own property table and adding legal descriptions on sort of a manual basis, and we can upload them to the Orion database. So we're kind of always on track.
And another question, Mike, if you have a minute, Stephen is asking if you had to move your CAD data, does that mean it is in a different projection and the coordinate system? And if so, why? So basically, I think the question is, why wasn't this CAD file that you just loaded in the right position?
Generally, because they're in the CAD space, like the 0, 0 space, so they're not necessarily georeferenced on the drawing, and that's how they come into that's how they're stored. That's how they come from the surveyor's office.
Okay. And a question from me: did you show it to any other counties in Montana, and did anyone want to basically mimic your integration with Orion?
I haven't actually, maybe here and there. I haven't actually demonstrated it before, but so no.
Okay.
Yep.
And Mike, is it true that you developed this tool, right? I mean, you're
Correct.
also you're the GIS coordinator and the developer, and as we've seen, the editor sometimes.
Correct. Yeah. I'm sort of pseudo editor. We have editors in our office, but they use the same tools. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's all the questions from now. We'll answer Brent later.
Okay. All right. So that's kind of the quick, demo on how we maintain it and how we keep everything in sync. So I'm going to go back to my slides real quick. So the benefits, I kind of talked through those. The biggest one is accurate parcel information. Inaccuracies can quickly derail business processes and make a big mess. So, if we have an incorrect geocode on a parcel, somebody starts the permitting process and they link to that geocode, which then pulls the legal description down with it and attaches it to the permit. If that legal description is wrong or any other information is wrong, you have to reset it and restart it and go back and fix it. So it's critical that it's correct on the get-go. We also have a ton of automated Python and Pro core host application processes to help us QA/QC these data sets. And create derivatives. So we use Python a lot to take that base parcel data that we have and connect it to various database views that we've created. One of them is an acreage comparison. So we can take our base parcel data, connect it to what the Department of Revenue has in their tax information on the parcel size for that parcel, mash those together and compare the actual GIS size to the legal size, and we can kind of come up with discrepancies there. And that helps us fix a lot of the issues that are in our parcels, like we're incorrectly including a right of way or something in the parcel acreage, and so we can go and fix them that way. Owner parcels, this is a huge requested data set, and we can do this automatically. So like I said, instead of storing all that stuff in our base parcel data, we have a process that runs every night that takes those base parcels and just joins them with the ownership information. So we get the owner of the main base owner of the parcel, the legal description for the parcel, the parcel type, all that kind of stuff that's in Orion that we don't maintain. Levy districts, kind of the same thing. We do maintain those, but it is based off of what is in Orion. So when I clicked on the tax ID, you saw that it pulled the levy district in. That's populating automatically from Orion. Property types the same way. If it's vacant urban land or vacant rural land, it'll come in there. And the owner type, this is also a heavily used one, which owner type has basic categories. We have federal, state, local, or private, and we can have subgroups of those. So like federal is Forest Service or BLM, you name it. We also have Pro Core Host standalone app that runs every night, and it does a ton of QA/QC checks. We can check to see if we have duplicate geocodes in our parcels. If that's the case, we can go investigate it, figure out why it's duplicated. Is it, like a multi-part polygon that has the same geocode that just needs to be merged together? We can go investigate that stuff. We're not necessarily privy to ownership changes, so it's sort of rare that it does happen, but for example, there was a lot of land transfers between the BLM and the Forest Service, and we have a kind of a algorithm, for lack of a better word, that looks at the owner name of the parcel and then looks at our own code. And if those don't match by certain criteria that we've set up, it'll flag it and send us a notification that says, hey, this used to be owned by BLM, but you have it as US Forest Service ownership type, so you got to go fix that. So that keeps the data accurate there too. Same thing with levy district changes. If a levy district changes and we haven't updated that parcel, we can go through and update that. And also the parcel acreage, like I said here. And I'll show you quickly those. So here are some of our derivatives. And this is, like I said, this is our main base parcel layer here. And we can create all these derivatives from this. And this is automated processes that come from the Department of Revenue data. In this case, this is own code. And what this does is it goes through on a nightly process and just dissolves based on the ownership type. And then we have a single selectable polygon for the USDA Forest Service. This is really helpful because it can give us acreage of all USDA Forest Service owned property in the county. Same with a lot of different ownership types. We have Fish and Wildlife, we have DNRC, state of Montana, county land, and then private land, to name a few.
Is this data also published outside of the county or within the county?
This data here?
Yeah, or is it only for your department to use?
No, we have it on our mapping sites. Yeah, so you can turn this on and off. So if you're looking for parcels, you can turn this layer on and off to see what adjacent ownership there is. Yeah. We also have a dashboard that uses this too, that kind of categorizes and organizes all the top landowners of the county, and it uses this data set as well. Property type is pretty similar to own code, but in this case, it's a different category of land type. So in this case, it's improved rural land. This is vacant rural land, and the same thing. It just dissolves and merges all together, so we can get an accurate or fairly accurate count of the acreage for, in this case, vacant land, rural. Levy districts, again, same thing. It just dissolves based on the levy, and we have a quick map that's always updated, always accurate, because we're quality checking it, with automated processes and going into, like this one. Seems like an outlier that should probably be fixed. But yeah, that's kind of a weird one. So it should be, accurate on a daily basis. And lastly, ownership parcels, this is the standard kind of how things are distributed, with the owner name. This is the parcel we just edited. There it is, South Missoula, block 9324. And so we just attach all the legal description information, the owner, ownership, mailing address, and all that kind of stuff to this. In this one, we do not distribute because we're not allowed to distribute mailing addresses. So this is kind of an internal use only data set. The great thing about this too is we can keep historical records. So every year we take a snapshot of all the ownership for that year. And so we have a record of the last 10 years of, historic ownership. So those are kind of like the big four data sets that we use that are all automated based on the Orion information, and they come in handy. So the future, we're always adding more derivative layers depending on our needs. We can kind of craft our SQL database, the Orion SQL database, with different views based on what kind of data we want to present, and we can just always link it to the geocode and have ourselves a new representation of the parcel data set. Thinking about far future is possible integration of the survey review process into the fabric itself, which basically would mean cutting out the whole CAD import step. That's kind of a lofty goal, but it's definitely possible. And the automation of parcel splits is something I've really been curious about, and I've referenced a sample on one of these meetups maybe a year ago, where it's using a data-driven approach. In that sample, it took a database keyword, I think it was split or something like that, and it was able to match what parcel it was, and it was able to automatically split the parcel based on those keywords, and just update it automatically. So we're investigating that kind of stuff too. Basically anything that'll ease the editing process.
Maybe ChatGPT will soon do the work for us.
Yeah.
You'll just say, split the parcel. Use this legal record and off you go.
Yeah. I should have put ChatGPT on here.
But make no mistake, Mike is real. He's not an AI.
Yeah. So that's kind of our future plans. That's my show for the day. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Hey Mike, yeah, this is Tim. Really good, good stuff. Really looks cool. I had a question about the CAD part of it. Do you have any requirements for that CAD? Like, you do bring in, say, a large subdivision that needs to have the lines split or anything like that, or how do you manage those types of that type of CAD data?
Well, we don't necessarily have any rules on that it has to be delivered this way. Generally, they're all split. It's basically COGO'd out from the survey, and so everything is generally split. So we will end up with singular lines all over the place. Yeah, which is fine by us. Yeah, because it gets down to the level.
Makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
And then when you georeference the CAD and moved it, is that all you have to do typically, or do you ever have to kind of rotate and scale or anything like that?
Generally, yes, and it's generally fits right into place. Sometimes there is rotation and scaling, so we'll definitely move it only, and then we'll update the COGO, so those stick as the COGO measurements, and then we can rotate and scale as needed.
Yeah, and then that way you don't have to worry about ground to grid because it's just coming in as ground. Okay.
Exactly.
Cool. Very cool. Looks
Thanks.
Great.
Any more questions? Feel free to type them in, and maybe Jason, that's a good time for the poll questions.
Yeah, sure. I can pop those up right now.
Thank you.
All right, so we got 2 poll questions here. These ones were submitted by Mike so that he wanted to see everyone's answers. So the first one here is, do you have access to county assessors DOR data? Department of Revenue. So we've got yes, no, and not sure.
Or CAMA data.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'll let this go for just a bit here. Collecting the responses. All right, looks like it's slowing down here. All right, so we got a little above 54% of the votes. So let's go ahead and show the results. So the results here, you got 65% of the participants here say yes, and 23% say no, and 13% say not sure. And that's
good. Yeah, we could have participants also not from the assessor world, right? From public works,
yep.
BLM, other countries. So
yeah. And then the last question here is, do you use any custom add-ins for the parcel fabric editing? So as you saw in the demo here, they had a custom add-in that was on the, did some really cool stuff with the record creation and the pulling the data from their Orion data set, and like it was really neat. It was really impressive to see that and how well it was integrated within the parcel fabric as well.
It definitely saves a lot of time.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Do you have any metrics how much time that would have saved, or?
You know, I've never actually calculated down, but you know, it's just a matter of manually copy pasting all those various values into the attribute table, whereas this does it all in one swoop.
And the potential of making mistakes, of course.
Yeah. So that's a good thought, is that, you know, that data gets vetted beforehand, before it ever enters that database in the first place. So we're confident that it's correct.
All right, let's go ahead and share the results of this poll. So we see that we have the majority of people that are not using custom add-ins. We've got 10% using custom add-ins, and 63% say no, but there are 27% that says not yet. So that means that they are probably looking into creating or are currently creating custom add-ins.
So Mike, I have another question for you. Let's say if they're not yet got just convinced they want to create something similar, how would you approach getting started with integrating to another system? Do you share the codes and the scripts you have on GitHub for others to use?
No, not at this point. I don't. I can definitely answer questions on how to get started, but it definitely requires, I think I said I used Entity Framework in this particular case to interface with SQL. So, getting that kind of stuff set up can be as complicated as you want, or, you can simplify it too. But at this point, I don't share any of the code, no.
Jason, can you close the poll questions?
I tried.
You're trying. Okay.
Right now.
So, while you're trying, Jason, another question for Mike from Joseph. If the Orion gets updated after the plat that is not immediate, do you publish the GIS update prior to the geocode tax ID being available? I hope you understood that better than me. So if the Orion gets updated after the plat.
Yeah, I think I understand. So generally we'll have an NA placeholder. So if somebody tries to identify that piece of ground, it's not going to connect with anything. And in that case, either we'll get a call and say, why is this not updated yet? But like I said before too, that none of the splits this year will make it into the Orion database until next tax year. So we mock up our own, but we do get the geocodes from Department of Revenue. They're just not into Orion yet. So we'll put those in our own table and upload those. Yeah, and we'll mark all of those. The legal description will have quote unquote not official in it, so that way we know it's not in Orion yet.
And there's a question from John. He asked, can Mike's customization be added to the parcel fabric? So I guess, John, will have to be more specific, because I am pretty sure not everybody wants to integrate with Orion database out there in the world. So, but what is important, I guess, is to understand what type of SDK methods we would need to put or expose out of the box to integrate to other systems more easily, which is, by the way, a driver of the parcel fabric, make integration to other business system more configurable, easier. So I guess the portion of finding and creating the active record is something that is on the roadmap potentially. if there's other methods that Tim is designing that will make it also easier to integrate with regards to active record. But some of the integration we saw here from Mike was very specific to their databases and system. Any other comments, Tim or Mike, to that question?
I don't have any.
Okay. And I guess, is there another question? I guess that's about it. Mike, could you please share your last slide again with your contact details? If anyone has follow-up questions, maybe they'll see. Thank you. Maybe they'll see the video after the fact, and they'll be able to contact you.
Yeah.
Other announcement, Tim, would you like to describe what's going to happen in the Developer Summit coming up, because it's kind of related?
Sure. Yes, we will be attending the Developer Summit. Ken Gallagher and I, and we'll be doing a couple of sessions on Kogo API and the Parcel API. So some of the things like activating the record and creating the record that you saw Mike do, we'll show you how to do that through SDK. How to run a traverse around a parcel, for example, and adjust it. We'll show you how to do that through the SDK in the Kogo session. So if you are going to be at the Developer Summit, check in with us, and we'll be happy to answer your questions, and we'll be excited to see you there.
So I guess there's no more questions anymore, Mike. So on behalf of everybody, I'd like to thank you for this wonderful presentation today.
Sure. Thank you.
I'm sure you'll have follow-up questions coming online after the fact. And we hope to see more presentations like this. So if anyone out there wants to present their implementation, their customization, their workflow, their challenges, their roadmap, we'll be happy to put them on the stage here. So thank you, everybody.
And like all previous meetups, this is being recorded, so we'll have this recording up on the Azure community site within the next few hours. So you guys can share it and chat about it with everybody else.
Have a good week, and we'll have another meetup coming up, I think, in a couple of weeks on Fit for Purpose by Case Desert. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye-bye.